I sat cross-legged on the hardwood floor of my parents' Denver living room, surrounded by torn wrapping paper and the artificial pine scent of Christmas morning. My sister Brooke twirled her manicured fingers around a set of shiny Audi keys, the metal catching the twinkling lights from the tree as she pirouetted like a teenager instead of a 30-year-old woman. I couldn't believe it. She squealed, bouncing on her toes. My own Audi. Dad beamed at her with unfiltered pride. Mom clasping her hands beneath her chin like she was witnessing a miracle. The car sat in the driveway, a glossy black testament to parental devotion, complete with an enormous red bow that probably cost more than what they spent on my entire Christmas. Meanwhile, I stared at the object in my lap, a plastic piggy bank shaped like a cartoon character from a children's show I outgrew 23 years ago. The price tag they forgot to remove read $1.99. "Open it," Mom urged, gesturing toward the small rubber stopper on the bottom. My fingers felt numb as I complied. 2 crisp $1 bills fluttered out. "It was the start of your future home fund, honey," Dad announced with a dismissive wave. "You were always so responsible with money, not like some people." He winked at Brooke, who pretended to look offended. The silence stretched like taffy between us until Mom filled it. Brooke needed reliable transportation for her new marketing clients. Those creative types expected a certain image, you know? Brooke dropped onto the couch beside me, her expensive perfume clouding my senses. "Don't worry, sis, I'll drive you around whenever you need." She patted my knee with patronizing gentleness. "Your little Honda must be on its last legs by now. The Honda that carried me through 7 hours of mountain passes yesterday. The Honda I paid off myself 3 years ago. The Honda that was more reliable than any relationship in this room." I couldn't breathe. 32 years of moments just like this one crystallized in my mind with perfect clarity. This wasn't an anomaly, it was the pattern of my entire life. Just this morning, I had carefully wrapped their gifts. A leather briefcase for Dad that cost 2 weeks' salary. The gold necklace Mom had admired in a Phoenix boutique window. The professional tablet Brooke had casually mentioned wanting, all purchased by setting aside a little from each paycheck for months. I had rehearsed my announcement during the entire drive down from Phoenix. Lead civil engineer. The promotion I had earned through nights and weekends of extra work, designing infrastructure that would stand for generations. I had imagined their faces lighting up with pride, finally seeing me as something more than Brooke's responsible older sister. Maybe this Christmas would finally be different. I had whispered to myself at each rest stop, at each gas station, at each mile marker. My hands trembled as I placed the piggy bank on the coffee table. The plastic made a hollow sound against the glass. "Excuse me," I managed, my voice sounding like it belonged to someone else. "Bathroom." I walked, didn't run, up the familiar stairs, past the wall of family photos where Brooke's face dominated every frame. The bathroom door closed behind me with a soft click before I twisted the lock. My reflection stared back at me, eyes too dry, face too composed. I pressed my palms against the cold marble counter, waiting for tears that wouldn't come. The pressure built in my chest instead, like concrete hardening around my lungs. People talked about heartbreak like it was abstract. It wasn't. I felt each chamber of my heart contracting painfully, blood struggling to push through narrowing vessels. My sternum ached like someone had pressed a knee against it, This was what dying felt like, I thought. Not dramatic, just diminishing. The night stretched endlessly as I lay awake in my childhood bedroom, listening to Brooke's laughter from downstairs as she and my parents planned her first road trip in the new car. At 2:17 a.m., I finally sat up. I packed quickly, taking only what mattered: the faded stuffed bear my grandmother gave me, the photo album from college, the small wooden box containing my first professional blueprint. The expensive gifts I had given them over the years stayed where they were. They were never about gratitude anyway. The house was silent as I carried my suitcase down the stairs. My house key lay cold in my palm for a moment before I placed it on the kitchen counter beside the coffee maker that would brew in 3 hours. They had made their choice. Now I was making mine. Streetlights blurred into watery halos as I navigated empty highways. The dashboard clock read 3:42 a.m. Christmas morning. My windshield wipers battled against thickening snow while Bing Crosby crooned about white Christmases from the radio. I twisted the volume knob until his voice faded to silence. "Have yourself a merry little Christmas," I whispered to the empty passenger seat, my voice breaking on merry. The irony burned like acid. Through Denver's southern outskirts, my Honda's heaters struggled against the December chill. 7 years old with 200,000 miles, this car carried me through college, first jobs, promotions. It never complained about mountain passes or tight parking spots. Unlike the gleaming Audi sitting in my parents' driveway with its ridiculous red bow, my car earned its place in my life. Around 6, my phone buzzed against the center console. I glanced down to see Mom's face lighting up the screen. Not, "Are you safe?" or "Please come home." Just, "Did you remember to pay the electric bill for the cabin before you left Phoenix?" The cabin they bought for weekend getaways that Brooke used for Instagram photo shoots. A semi-truck passed, spraying slush across my windshield. For 3 terrifying seconds, I drove blind until the wipers cleared enough space to see. My hands shook against the steering wheel as memories flooded faster than the wipers could clear them away. 5th birthday, Brooke's princess party with professional decorations, pony rides, and a 3-tier castle cake. 30 neighborhood kids in party hats. My celebration the following year, grocery store sheet cake, 2 friends from kindergarten, party supplies from the dollar bin. "Your sister needs the social stimulation," Dad explained when I asked why. "You were more independent." Independent. Their code for "you don't need us." High school graduation, valedictorian. My carefully crafted speech about persistence and dreams. Empty seats in the family section because Brooke's junior varsity soccer team had an away game. We would watch the recording, Mom promised. The VHS tape sat unwrapped on my dresser until I left for college. "Your sister needs the encouragement," Mom said. "You always succeeded without our help." Without help. Their code for "you were on your own." College years flashed before me as highway signs counted down miles to the Nevada border. Working 25 hours weekly at the campus bookstore and cafeteria. Taking maximum course loads to graduate early. Stretching student loans and scholarships while Brooke explored artistic inspiration across Europe on our parents' dime. Your sister needed to find herself, Dad insisted during one of our rare phone calls. You had always known exactly who you were, known who I was. Their code for "you didn't deserve exploration." My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. I let it ring until voicemail caught it. The first hint of dawn lightened the eastern horizon as tears blurred oncoming headlights into golden streaks. I pulled onto the shoulder, hazards blinking, and pressed my forehead against the steering wheel. The patterns crystallized with sudden clarity. Dad controlling the money, withholding from me, while bankrolling Brooke's every whim. Mom manipulating emotions, making me feel selfish for wanting even scraps of attention. The perfect system. One parent handling financial favoritism, the other maintaining emotional control. My phone rang again. Not family this time. Laura Ramirez, my college roommate, turned lifelong friend. "Where were you?" Her voice, warm and worried, filled the car through Bluetooth. "Somewhere in southern Utah." My voice sounded hollow, unrecognizable, heading south. To where? I didn't know. The line went quiet for a moment. Then, "Come to Los Angeles. Stay with me." Family didn't treat family like this. Laura knew. She witnessed the evidence firsthand during college. The packages that arrived for me containing practical necessities, while Brooke received designer clothes. The holiday breaks when I stayed in dorms because flying home was too expensive. The same years my parents took Brooke to Aspen and Maui. I couldn't impose. "Stop." Laura's voice turned firm. "You had spent your whole life being the helper. Let someone help you for once." The words cracked something open inside me. Help. Such a simple concept, yet foreign to my experience. My family help flowed one direction, toward Brooke, toward my parents, never toward me. "Okay," I whispered, surprising myself. "Text me your location every hour. Drive safe." I was making up the guest room. The call ended. I eased back onto the highway, wipers clearing fresh snow. For the first time since leaving Denver, my shoulders lowered slightly from their defensive hunch. By 7:30 a.m., I crossed the Nevada state line. The Welcome to Nevada sign gleamed in early sunlight. My phone screen showed 17 missed calls, 32 text messages. With deliberate motions, I turned off notifications from Mom, Dad, and Brooke. The silence felt weightier than any accusation. My stomach growled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since yesterday's Christmas Eve dinner. A small roadside diner appeared ahead, its neon open sign a beacon in the morning light. I pulled into the nearly empty parking lot. Inside, the warmth enveloped me like an embrace. Coffee-scented air and the sizzle of breakfast on a distant grill. An older waitress with silver-streaked hair approached with a coffee pot. "Rough night?" she asked, filling a mug without waiting for my answer. Her name tag read Gloria. "Rough life," I muttered, then felt immediately embarrassed by the melodrama. Gloria didn't flinch. "Honey, I had been serving coffee for 40 years. I knew heartbreak when I saw it." "Family or boyfriend?" "Family." She nodded, sliding a menu toward me. "Blood made you related. Love and respect made you family." Her weathered hand rested briefly on mine. The special was good today. Came with extra bacon. I ordered the special and wrapped my hands around the coffee mug. Gloria's words echoed as I watched snowflakes dissolve against the window glass. Blood made you related. Love and respect made you family. For 32 years, I had been related to the Harris family. Perhaps it was time to find out what being part of a real family felt like. 3 weeks later, I was with my friend in Los Angeles. My phone vibrated against the nightstand for the 13th time this morning. Dad's number. Again, I counted to 10 before silencing it, adding his call to the growing cemetery of voicemails I refused to resurrect. The first week, their messages held confusion. The second, concern. Now, in week 3, they had evolved into something darker. Manipulation, wrapped in parental authority. Hazel Elizabeth Harris. Dad's latest voicemail thundered through the speaker when I finally checked. If you didn't return this car immediately, I would report it stolen. This childish behavior had gone on long enough. The Honda, my Honda, the one with my name on the title and 7 years of paid-off receipts. I crushed the throw pillow against my stomach, swallowing the acid that rose in my throat. Mom's message followed. The doctor said my blood pressure was dangerously high because of the stress you were causing. Was that what you wanted? For me to end up in the hospital because you were being selfish? I deleted them, both without responding, though my finger hovered over the screen longer than I cared to admit. My temporary sanctuary in Laura's spare bedroom felt both foreign and familiar. The walls were painted a soft terracotta that caught the morning light, warming the space in ways my Phoenix apartment never did. On the dresser, my laptop displayed an email I had rewritten 14 times. Dear Mr. Thompson, Dear Mr. Thompson. I was writing to formally request a transfer to the Los Angeles office, effective immediately. My finger clicked send before I could reconsider. No family connections, no favors called in, just my work record, my reputation, my worth as a civil engineer. 3 hours later, the approval arrived in my inbox, just like that. As if I had always been capable of creating my own path. You got it? Laura appeared in the doorway, reading my expression. Her dark curls framed a face lined with genuine happiness for me. The concept still felt foreign. Someone celebrating my accomplishments without making them about themselves. I started Monday, I confirmed. Now I just needed to find a place. I started Monday. Laura grinned. Already called Sophia from book club. She managed apartments in Echo Park, rent control, safe building, 20-minute walk to your new office. You didn't have to. I wanted to. She cut me off, dropping onto the bed beside me. Friends helped friends. No strings attached. Novel concept for you. I knew. The words hit their mark. No strings, no obligations, no scorekeeping. The tears I had been holding back for 3 weeks threatened to break through. I made you an appointment too, she added, sliding a business card onto my laptop. Dr. Morales, Tuesday at 4. The card read Elaine Morales, PhD, Family Therapy. I wasn't crazy, I whispered. No, Laura agreed. But you had been carrying something heavy for a very long time. It might help to put it down somewhere safe. On Tuesday afternoon, the therapist's office smelled like lemon furniture polish and old books. Dr. Morales wore reading glasses on a beaded chain and sensible shoes that made no sound on the carpet. She didn't rush to fill silences, just waited while I struggled to form words that had never been spoken aloud. Favoritism, I finally said, the word hanging between us like a newly discovered planet. My entire life. And how did that make you feel? She asked. Like I was worth exactly $2, I answered. Later that week, the apartment Sophia showed me was small, 650 square feet, with a kitchenette barely wide enough for a refrigerator. But the windows faced west, catching afternoon sunshine that spilled across hardwood floors. It was mine by nightfall. I bought a futon, a lamp, and a small desk. Nothing more. The emptiness felt intentional rather than impoverished. Space to grow into. Laura dragged me to a community center the following Saturday. Pottery class, she announced. You needed something that wasn't work or therapy. I protested until my hands sank into cool clay, feeling it yield and resist simultaneously. The instructor, a woman with silver hair and paint-spattered overalls, stood behind me. "Don't force it," she murmured. "Listen to what it wanted to become." My fingers trembled as they shaped something from nothing. By class end, I had created a small, imperfect bowl with uneven edges. It was hideous and beautiful and entirely mine. The first video call came 4 weeks after Christmas. I answered on the third ring, steeling myself against the familiar surge of guilt their faces triggered. "Where had you been?" Dad demanded immediately. His face filled the screen, red with indignation. Your mother had been worried sick. Behind him, Mom dabbed at eyes that remained strategically dry. "Los Angeles," I answered calmly. "I transferred offices." "Without discussing it with us first?" Mom interjected, pushing into frame. "How could you be so inconsiderate?" The old pull tugged at my chest. Apologize, placate, make it right. But Dr. Morales's words echoed. Your feelings were valid. Their reactions belonged to them, not you. I needed space, I said instead. Space from what? Dad barked. From family? From responsibility? From growing up? From feeling invisible? I replied, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. From being valued less than Brooke? From trying to earn love that should have been freely given? Mom's tears flowed instantly, right on cue. How could you say such hurtful things? We had always loved you both the same. I wasn't responsible for your feelings anymore, I told her. The words felt like stones I had been carrying in my mouth for years, finally released. I was responsible for mine. Dad slammed his palm against the table. This conversation was over until you were ready to apologize. Then I guessed we were done talking. I answered and ended the call. In days to come, the rumors reached me through LinkedIn messages and texts from former coworkers. According to family lore, I had had a mental breakdown. I was living in squalor. I had joined a cult. Brooke's Instagram showed her looking concerned in tastefully filtered photos, captioned with vague references to family heartbreak and praying for those struggling with mental health. My new coworkers knew nothing of this narrative. They saw only my work, the precision of my calculations, the innovation in my designs. When Brooke showed up unannounced at the office reception 10 days later, Laura happened to be dropping off lunch. She was in a meeting. Laura informed her coolly, and she would remain in meetings indefinitely for uninvited visitors. My therapy group met Wednesday evenings in a church basement that smelled of coffee and old hymnals. 8 strangers connected by similar wounds. Family didn't get a pass just because they were family, said Raymond, a 60-year-old accountant who hadn't spoken to his brother in 20 years. Love without respect wasn't love, it was possession. So the words settled in my chest like truth. 6 months after Christmas, my apartment had transformed. Pottery lined the windowsills, each piece more refined than the last. A proper bed had replaced the futon. The promotion to senior project manager came with a raise that ended any lingering financial anxiety. On my bookshelf sat the plastic piggy bank. I had filled it with crisp $2 bills, one for each week of freedom. Not as punishment, but as a reminder. Sometimes the smallest betrayals revealed the largest truths. The first holiday season approached with both dread and relief. No presents to buy that wouldn't be appreciated. No performances to maintain, no diminishment to endure. Just me in a space I had created, becoming someone I was finally learning to value, worth far more than $2. A month later, the ivory envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a landmine. 3 days it had been there, untouched. cousin Megan's wedding invitation. My name in swooping calligraphy, Hazel Harris. No +1, just me, expected to return to the fold unaccompanied. "So what were you thinking, doctor?" Morales asked, her office chair creaking as she leaned forward. I traced the edge of the armrest, counting the brass tacks one by one. I was. Her eyebrows rose slightly. That was a change from last week. "On my terms," I added quickly. I had booked a room at the Marriott 4 blocks from the venue. Dad called twice, insisting I stay at their rental house with everyone. "And what did you say?" "Nothing." I smiled, remembering the satisfaction of letting his voicemail fill with increasingly desperate messages. The boundary was the message. 7 months of therapy had taught me the vocabulary of self-protection. 7 months after Christmas drove away. 7 months of rebuilding myself, one therapy session, one pottery class, one peaceful evening alone at a time. During the session, my phone buzzed. "Brooke, the 3rd text today. Can't wait to see you next weekend. We needed sister time before the wedding madness." I slid the phone back into my purse without responding. Dr. Morales noticed. "Your sister again?" Suddenly we were best friends. I laughed, but it came out hollow. She never texted this much when we lived in the same city. "What did you think she wanted?" "A ride from the airport, money." The old Hazel who carried her emotional baggage, along with her actual luggage. I ran my fingers across the fabric swatch on my lap. Midnight blue silk for the dress I had commissioned. 3 fittings to ensure it hung perfectly from my shoulders. Skimmed my curves without apology. The color of power, not reconciliation. They had enlisted flying monkeys. I told Dr. Morales. Uncle Pete called last night about how families needed to stick together. Aunt Judith emailed about forgiveness being divine. Even Megan's fiancé sent a Facebook message. They were coordinating. And how did that make you feel? Before therapy, I would have said fine, always fine. Instead, I traced the physical truth of my emotions. The tightness in my throat, the cold sweat along my hairline, the slight tremor in my fingers. Terrified, I admitted, but also ready. Later that evening, I spread the seating chart Megan accidentally included in a group email across my kitchen table. There I was, placed between my parents, directly across from Brooke. The family tableau restored. I reached for my phone. "Megan," it was Hazel. I had a small request about the seating arrangements. Friday arrived with Los Angeles fog that burned away as my plane took off. The clouds parted somewhere over Utah, revealing the landscape of my childhood. My heartbeat quickened as we began our descent into Denver. The rehearsal dinner location glowed golden against the twilight sky. I stood on the sidewalk, touching the smooth stone pendant Laura gave me before I left. Strength wasn't about not feeling fear, she had said. It was about feeling it and walking forward anyway. I straightened my shoulders and pulled open the heavy wooden door. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Heads turned. My mother's hand flew to her throat. My father's drink paused halfway to his lips. I had changed. The Hazel who fled at Christmas was a shadow. This woman in tailored black pants, emerald silk blouse, and heels that announced each step with authority was solid, present. The diamond studs in my ears caught the light as I scanned the room, nodding acknowledgments without rushing toward anyone. Brooke approached first, arms outstretched, but something was different. The designer watch was gone. The highlights in her hair had grown out. Her smile seemed strained rather than entitled. "You looked amazing," she said, embracing me briefly. "Thank you." I stepped back, maintaining the space between us. "How was the Audi treating you?" Her eyes darted away. I had to trade it in. Got a Toyota, more practical, you know." Beyond her shoulder, I spotted my parents huddled with Aunt Martha. Mother dabbed at her eyes with a cocktail napkin. Father's shoulders slumped forward in a posture I had never seen before. Cousin Tara appeared at my elbow, vodka tonic in hand. "God, was I glad you were here," she whispered. "You wouldn't believe the drama since Christmas." "Oh, your parents were selling the house." She leaned closer. "Medical bills," they said, but everyone knew they had been floating Brooke for years. Reality finally caught up. Before I could respond, a waiter circulated with champagne. I took a glass, watching the bubbles rise and burst against the surface. Just like the family stories, what rose eventually popped. Uncle Simon approached, clasping my free hand. "You were looking well, Hazel. That job in Los Angeles must agree with you." "Senior project manager now," I said, the words still tasting new on my tongue. His eyes widened. "No kidding? That was wonderful." More relatives orbited toward me throughout the evening. Cousin Michael confessed he always noticed how differently I was treated. Aunt Martha hugged me too tightly, whispering, "Your father lost his job 3 months ago. Your mother was on anxiety medication." I absorbed each revelation with the strange detachment of someone watching waves break against a shore from which they had retreated to higher ground. My father cornered me during cocktail hour, bourbon heavy on his breath. "Family stuck together, Hazel." His voice carried the familiar weight of authority, but something essential had crumbled beneath it, no matter what. "Did it, Dad?" I met his gaze without flinching. "Or did some family members stick together while others got pushed aside?" His face reddened. "We had always supported you. $2 in a piggy bank." The words came out softer than I expected, but they landed with precision. "That was your definition of support." He opened his mouth, closed it, then walked away. In the ladies' room, my mother appeared beside me at the sink, eyes swimming with tears. "We missed you so much," she said, reaching for my hand. I continued washing my hands, the soap slippery between my fingers. "I missed who I thought you were, too." Back in the main room, Brooke pulled me onto the terrace. The evening air carried the scent of roses from the garden below. "The Audi got repossessed," she blurted out. "I was drowning in debt. Marketing clients dried up. Dad couldn't help anymore." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know how to do this, Hazel. I never learned how to stand on my own." The confession hung between us. 7 months ago, I would have immediately offered solutions, money, and a place to stay. The old Hazel would have added this burden to her collection. Instead, I placed my hand gently on her arm. "That sounded really hard, Brooke." I felt compassion without responsibility, a distinction that took months of therapy to learn. "I was sorry you were going through that." Her eyes widened slightly at my response. Compassion without rescue. "I could help make a budget," I offered, "but I couldn't fix this for you." Over her shoulder, I saw Megan in her pre-wedding glow, surrounded by bridesmaids. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight, standing on this terrace with the weight of family expectations sliding off my shoulders like water, I realized I was no longer afraid. I was the woman who walked away from a lifetime of diminishment, who built a life from the foundation up. Whatever came next, I would face it standing firmly on the ground of my own making. The next day, I stood in the bridal suite of the Rocky Ridge Gardens, watching as my cousin Megan transformed from nervous bride to radiant woman. The morning sun poured through tall windows, casting everything in a gentle golden light that felt at odds with the storm brewing in my chest. "Hazel, your parents were looking for you," Aunt Martha whispered, her fingers gentle on my forearm. "They were in the library, said it was important." I knew this moment was coming. 7 months since I walked out of their Denver home, leaving nothing but a note and a lifetime of resentment behind. "Thanks, Martha." My voice sounded calmer than I felt. "I would find them after I helped Megan with her veil." Martha's eyes softened. They mentioned something about a family emergency before the ceremony. Of course they did. The library door felt heavier than physics should allow. As I pushed it open 30 minutes later, Mom sat ramrod straight in a high-backed chair, tissues already clutched in her hand. Dad paced by the fireplace, his movements sharp and contained. Brooke stood by the window, wearing a dress that cost more than my first month's rent in Los Angeles, though the repossessed Audi was nowhere to be seen. "Hazel, thank God." Mom rose, arms outstretched. We needed to talk as a family. I remained in the doorway. The ceremony started in 40 minutes. "Sit down, Hazel." Dad gestured to the empty chair, positioned to face all 3 of them. A staged intervention. This couldn't wait any longer. I closed the door behind me, but didn't move toward the chair. I was listening. Brooke stepped forward. "Hazel, this had gone far enough. Dad lost his job 3 months ago." "The company downsized," Dad interjected quickly. "Budget cuts." "Mom had been seeing a therapist for depression," Brooke continued. "This all started when you left at Christmas." Mom dabbed at dry eyes. "We were selling the house, the perfect trifecta. Financial crisis, health concerns, and guilt, wrapped in one neat package. 7 months ago, I would have crumpled under the weight of their expectations, apologized for something that wasn't my fault, and offered to help. Today, I walked to the indicated chair, set my purse beside it, and sat with my spine straight. "I was sorry to hear about your job, Dad. And Mom, I was glad you were getting help." Their faces registered confusion at my calm response. "Didn't you hear what we said?" Brooke's voice rose. "They were selling the house because of you." "No, they were selling the house because of choices they made long before I left." I removed a leather-bound photo album from my purse. "I brought something to show you." Mom frowned. "We didn't have time for, you called this meeting." I opened the album across my lap. So we had time. The first page showed 2 birthday parties side by side. Brooke's elaborate princess theme, with hired entertainers, and my party the same year with a grocery store cake at the kitchen table. Remember these? I flipped through pages of Christmas mornings, graduations, and family vacations, where the pattern of favoritism was unmistakable. I spent months compiling evidence of what I always felt but couldn't prove. Dad's face flushed. "This was ridiculous. We always treated you girls equally." I pulled out a folder of bank statements, my student loans, $67,000 that I was still paying, Brooke's education, fully funded, including her year in Europe for creative inspiration. Brooke shifted uncomfortably. "That wasn't fair. You chose engineering. That was your decision." "It was my passion," I corrected her. "Just like marketing was yours. The difference was my passion wasn't considered worth investing in." Mom rose, hands trembling. We didn't have the money when you went to college. Things were different by the time, Brooke. I learned everything about your financial records years ago, Mom. I cut her off. Dad's promotion came when I was 16. The inheritance from Grandma arrived before my freshman year. You had the money. You chose not to spend it on me. Ah. The room grew uncomfortably quiet as I laid out birthday cards spanning 30 years. The messages to Brooke overflowed with effusive love. Mine contained practical advice and reminders to work hard. We always knew you would be fine, Dad finally said, his defensiveness cracking. You were always so capable. There it was, the truth behind decades of disparity. Being capable didn't mean I deserved less love. My voice remained steady, even as heat built behind my eyes. Being responsible didn't mean I should carry everyone else's burdens. Mom collapsed into genuine, not manipulative tears. We never meant to hurt you. Intent didn't erase impact. I reached into my purse one final time. The plastic piggy bank made a hollow sound as I placed it on the coffee table between us. Dad stared at it. What was this nonsense? I removed the rubber stopper. Dozens of crisp $2 bills spilled out. Unusual currency that caught the eye. I had saved a $2 bill for every week since Christmas. I explained. This wasn't about money. It was about what you thought I was worth. Brooke picked up one of the bills, turning it over in her fingers. I never realized how it looked from your side. Her voice lacked its usual defensive edge. They never taught me to stand on my own. Outside the library, relatives passed by, their voices floating through the heavy door. In minutes, they would gather to celebrate love and commitment, while our family confronted decades of its absence. I didn't want apologies, I said, standing. I wanted change. I would consider reconciliation under 2 conditions: family therapy and respect for my boundaries. Dad opened his mouth to argue, but Mom placed her hand on his arm. We would do it, she said, surprising us all, whatever it took. I gathered my evidence and the piggy bank, but left its contents on the table. That was yours to keep. A reminder of what happened when you valued one child over another. Walking toward the door, I paused with my hand on the knob. I needed to take my seat for the ceremony. My friend Laura was saving me a place. As I stepped into the hallway, my back straight and heart lighter than it had been in months, I heard Brooke whisper to our parents. She was different now. She was right. The woman who left that Christmas morning carrying nothing but grief and resolution was gone. In her place stood someone who finally understood her own worth wasn't measured by what others thought she deserved, but by what she refused to accept. On Christmas, the sunshine spilled across the hardwood floors of my Los Angeles apartment as friends gathered around a table that actually belonged to me. The scent of rosemary and sage from the roasting turkey mingled with laughter, real laughter, not the strained kind that used to echo through my parents' house. To Hazel, Laura raised her glass, her dark curls catching the light from the window. Who built bridges better than anyone I knew, both at work and in life? My cheeks warmed at the toast. 1 year ago today, I placed a house key on a counter and drove away from everything familiar. Now I stood in an apartment filled with people who chose to be here, surrounded by pottery pieces I created with my own hands. And to Senior Project Manager Harris, added Ethan, his fingers brushing mine under the table. His touch still sent electricity through me. Not the lightning strike of infatuation, but the steady current of something building toward permanence. whose team finished the Elmwood Bridge project 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Ethan understood deadlines and structural integrity, an environmental engineer who valued sustainability in buildings and relationships alike. When he first asked me to coffee 6 months ago, I almost declined. Old habits of self-sacrifice died hard. My therapist, Dr. Morales, called it progress when I said yes. The kitchen timer chimed, saving me from having to acknowledge their praise. Some changes took longer than others. "Need help?" asked Ethan, following me into the kitchen. I had got it. The words slipped out automatically. Then I caught myself remembering Dr. Morales's gentle challenge. Accepting help didn't diminish your strength. Actually, could you carve the turkey? I never learned how. My phone vibrated with a video call from Brooke. Monthly calls, a boundary we established after the wedding confrontation. I answered while Ethan handled the carving. "Merry Christmas," Brooke said, her face filling the screen. Her apartment visible behind her looked smaller than mine. No designer furniture, no luxury car parked outside. Working 2 jobs had given her a new perspective on money, along with the shadows under her eyes. "You looked happy," she said, voice softer than it used to be. "Your place looked beautiful. It felt like home." I angled the camera to show my pottery studio in the spare bedroom. Once formless clay, now shaped into bowls and vases that lined the shelves. "How were Mom and Dad?" "Dad was 90 days sober today. He wanted me to tell you." She adjusted the camera to reveal our father sitting in a modest apartment living room, looking smaller somehow. The AA meetings were helping. He was different when he wasn't drinking. I nodded, not ready to fully process that revelation. And Mom? Still volunteering at the community center. She wanted to come to the call, but had an emergency food drive. Brooke paused. "They asked about you. Not in the old way, though. We talked for a few more minutes before saying goodbye." The wall clock showed it was time for dinner. Around my table, conversation flowed between Laura, Ethan, and friends from my engineering firm and pottery class. No one mentioned the piggy bank displayed on my mantel, now filled with dollar bills representing lessons rather than resentment. After dessert, Brooke texted a photo of a handmade clay ornament, clearly her first attempt at pottery. Not pretty, but made with love. Mailing it tomorrow. Then another message arrived from my mother. "Found this in the attic while downsizing. It always belonged to you." The attachment showed my childhood dollhouse, the one thing I truly loved growing up. The deed transfer paperwork sat below it, officially making it mine. Later, when everyone had gone and Ethan helped with the last dishes, I stepped onto my balcony. Los Angeles skyline stretched before me, lights from the freeways reflecting on dark water. Buildings I helped design stood in silhouette against the night sky. "Worth wasn't something you earned through usefulness," I whispered to the city lights. "It was something you claimed by knowing what you would and wouldn't accept." Ethan joined me, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders against the December chill. "Deep thoughts. Just grateful," I answered, leaning into his warmth. Sometimes the greatest gift was realizing what you wouldn't accept anymore. The piggy bank sat visible through the window, no longer a symbol of what I lacked, but what I found. The courage to value myself first.